What's going on, everyone? I'm Zero, and welcome back to Zero Two, where today I've got another deck profile for you. Today I'm showing off Live-Twin Fiendsmith. It's a deck that I've been piloting a lot recently. It definitely is able to go toe-to-toe with the meta, and it's one that I've had a lot of fun with, so I really wanted to show it off to you all. This deck has an insane number of one-card combos, so it's super consistent, and it has a ton of non-engine space, so it's really adaptable to any given format. I think it will be a good deck moving in coming format and for future formats to come, so this is definitely one, at least the core, to pick up now, so that way you can play it over the long term, because I think this deck will be good for a solid amount of time. It just plays such a simple game plan, but it puts up a solid number of interruptions with very minimal investment, which I think makes it really powerful and adaptable. Um, so stay tuned for that. We're going to jump into the deck profile, and I'll also show off some combos at the end of this video that play through Nibiru. I know that's something that this deck historically struggles with, and I haven't seen very many people on YouTube talking about how to play through Nibiru with this deck, so I'll show off that combo at the end. But without further ado, let's jump into the deck profile portion. Okay, so starting out with the deck profile, we'll go over the Live-Twin stuff first. All of your cards that are named Kisskill are one-card starters, so we're playing the maximum number of copies of these. They are Live-Twin Kisskill, Live-Twin Kisskill Frost, and Live-Twin Sunny Snitch, which is their continuous spell that, when activated, adds a Live-Twin monster from your deck to your hand. So it searches for these two and is an honorary member of the Kisskill family of cards we're playing. What's really nice is Sunny Snitch and Engraver, which we'll get to when we get to the Fiendsmith stuff, are the only searches that this deck does. So this deck plays really, really well into Droll. In fact, there are a lot of scenarios where if you get Mulch Armied, you might want to even Droll yourself so that your opponent doesn't get the draws, and you can still combo off under Droll no problem. I really like that about this deck because the top decks like Mitsurugi Raizel, and even Malice with some lines can fold the Droll. So having a deck that plays around Droll nicely is super, super awesome. For those uninitiated with these cards, Live-Twin Kisskill says that when it's normal summoned, you get to special summon a Leela monster from your deck if you control no other monsters. So if this is the way you're starting your combo, it gets you a Leela monster under the board to start your link climbing, which is awesome. Kisskill Frost does not do that, but while it's you have a Leela monster, you can special summon it from your hand. That's a summoning condition, not an effect, so it can play around things that negate monster effects. It just inherently puts itself on the board as a free extender. And then while it's in your graveyard, you can banish it while you control a Evil Twin monster, and your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand, and then you get to draw a card. So it's got a nice bonus graveyard effect. This is like sometimes the better starter, but regardless, these all are one-card combos, and you don't even need the summon off of the Kisskill to even resolve. So a lot of times, if your opponent doesn't know what you're doing and they hand trap the Kisskill, you're actually in a really good spot because they've wasted a hand trap on essentially nothing. You don't even need the Kisskill summoned. And then for the Leela monsters, we're on a minimal package of those. We're on just the one base Leela. This is another pseudo starter because it does the same thing that Kisskill does. It summons except instead of summoning a Leela, it summons a Kisskill. All of the Kisskills and Leelas they have like their partner effects, and they most of the time do the same thing, summoning back the other version of itself. So Leela summons a Kisskill from deck on normal or special. And then the reason this isn't as good, and the reason we're not maxing out on copies of this, is because if this gets hand trapped, we don't have the combo anymore. Our Link 1 enabler, which we'll get to when we look at the extra deck, requires one Kisskill monster, so you can't turn the Leela into that. And it can be super frustrating if this gets stopped. So if you're playing against this deck, then hitting the Leela, if that's their normal summon, can be turn-ending in some scenarios. And then the upgrade, the new card that we got out of Alliance Insight, is Live-Twin Leela Suite. Another reason why this deck is so strong right now, this card has two really good effects. The first one's an in-hand effect that if you're playing more copies of this card, which you can do because the in-hand effect is very good, allows you to discard it when your opponent responds to a Live-Twin effect to negate that effect that your opponent responded to it with. So if your opponent tries to Ash or Imperm your Kisskill on summon and you have a Leela Suite in hand, you can negate that. A lot of times people as well will hold the Fuwalos until you normal summon the Kisskill, since this will summon from deck. And if they do that and you've drawn the Leela Suite, then you just get to negate their Fuwalos, which is awesome. The better part of this card, though, and the reason like you actually play it, because the in-hand effect is nice. If it comes up, that's great, but a lot of times you don't want to draw it because while it's in your graveyard and you control a kiss kill monster, you just get to revive it. That's like a once per turn, but it is not a like once per duel. It doesn't banish itself when it leaves the field, so as long as you can keep getting kiss kills onto your board for future turns, this is a free body every single time, which is awesome. Really helps with link climbing. It's why your Link 1 is a 1-card combo, because the Link 1 sends this from deck to graveyard, so you always have 2 Link materials, which is fantastic. But that's all the Live-Twin cards we play. Super minimal package. It is 11 cards worth of Live-Twin stuff. And now we'll take a look at the Fiendsmith stuff. We're playing a pretty straightforward Fiendsmith package of 3 Engraver, 1 Lacrima, a Fabled Lurry, Fiendsmith Tract, a Fiendsmith Sanct, a Fiendsmith in Paradise. This is the standard, pretty cookie cutter Fiendsmith engine at this point. The minimal one at least. We're not on 3 copies of Tract, and in fact, we're playing 1 Sanct over the second Tract, which is really important to make sure that this deck doesn't lose to Droll. Again, one of the main advantages is that it doesn't, and a lot of people are main decking Droll this format, including us, as we'll see when we get to the Handtrap portion. But Sanct is a way to play around that, because if you go Engraver and you're going first, it's always best to add the Sanct, because you don't need the extra Light Fiend in rotation to make the Wave King Caesar, which is your main line when you start with Engraver. And so the Sanct is that full combo, which is really, really nice. Tract is still in there because it can be better in some scenarios. If you open Tract by itself, it's a much better combo than opening Sanct by itself. So we do want to play it, but it's not strictly necessary. You might be able to get away with 2 Sanct if you're trying to go more budget. Lacrima, engine requirement, of course you're playing it in Fiendsmith. Really, really strong. And then Lurry, of course, too, to search off the Tract. This makes the whole Fiendsmith combo work. Super, super important. I won't go into the Fiendsmith cards in depth. I'm sure you all are well aware of all the Fiendsmith cards and what they do. If you'd like to learn more about Fiendsmith, let me know down in the comments. If you have questions on what any of these cards do, I'd be more than happy to talk over them in the comments. But to save video time, we'll assume you know what these do, since these have been omnipresent in the meta since their release. But that's all of the engine we play in the deck. For those who've been counting, that's a total of 19 engine slots, which means that we're able to play a whopping 21 non-engine, which is absolutely insane, and I think that's why this deck is super well positioned. You get 21 slots to play whatever you want to counter the meta, so even as the format changes, if we see like Lunalight start to pick up steam, as we just had Duelist Advance come out, if once Justice Hunter drops, we have more mulch, or not mulch armies, more yummies or more canine. This deck can adapt. You can change up the Handtrap suite on a dime and play whatever you need in order to suit the best the current format. So I think that's where this deck really, really shines. And on that note, our Handtraps of choice, we're playing 3 copies of Mulch Army Fualos and 3 copies of Mulch Army Perulia. These are the best Charmies to main deck in the current format. I think that while Meows can be good, it's more of a side deck threat. It's not necessarily something you should be main decking, given that it doesn't give you an insane number of draws against Mitsu Rise and stuff like that, which can be frustrating. But these 2 cards do, which is fantastic. And so having these in the main is really, really strong. There are in extra deck options to discard cards from your hand to use your effects. So even if you draw these, they're not necessarily dead. They're just nice discard fodder, which can be cool. Whereas in a lot of other decks, they might just be sitting in your hand doing nothing. Then we're on 3 Ash Blossom, both as an offensive tool, going second to stop your opponent, but more so as a defensive tool. This deck loses really hard to Fualos. I think that's its one main flaw, is that this deck has to summon from the extra deck in the deck a ton of times per turn. And so if Fualos resolves against you, you're going to be in a tough spot. So we're on maximum copies of cards to combat that as well. So a lot of times you're using that Ash Blossom defensively when you're first. In that same vein, we're on Droll and Lockbird, 1, because it's crazy against Mitsurugi Raiziel, and any sort of Mitsurugi variants. But 2, it's also a nice defensive tool if you get Mulch Armied. Like I said, your only searches are from your Live-Twin Sunny Snitch and your Engraver. And so once you've resolved your search for the turn, you are more than welcome to Droll them on their first Mulch Army draw off, and then get no value off of it. Our remaining non-engine, this is kind of where it's flexible and format dependent. I think Nibiru is really strong, especially when paired with multiple hand traps or our interruption on the board. There are a lot of times where a Nibiru plus like an Ash or a Nibiru plus an Imperm can shut down your opponent entirely, or especially if you drolled your Mitsurugi opponent and then you Nibiru them, you're in a really, really strong spot because they can't bring anything back, which is very, very nice. So I think Nibiru is pretty strong. Imperm also strong, but again, these are like kind of the weaker hand trap slots where you could have more than likely switch them out as the format evolves. These would be the first areas I'm looking to cut. And then the last set of non-engine I'm playing are not hand traps, but the best going first staples. They are Crossout Designator, Fall by the Grave, and Tactics Talent. No need to explain these. These are really strong for combating the Charmies, combating hand traps in general, punishing your opponent for interacting with you. They're like the holy trinity of going first. So I think that you kind of have to play them in this deck. They feel super strong though because you're on so many hand traps. That Crossout Designator feels like it's just free most of the time. Call by the Grave, hitting everything is crazy. And of course, I don't need to explain why Talents is broken. It's now currently limited. So actually, all of these cards are limited, and they're all insane. So playing maximum copies of each is. That's the main deck, though. Again, 19 engine, 21 non-engine. You've got your 9 one-card starters and all of the Kiss Kills. Your Leela is technically a 10th one-card starter as long as it doesn't get interrupted with a hand trap. These are all one-card combos through a hand trap, which I think is insane. But this is a one-card starter through no interruptions. And then you've obviously got your Fiendsmith combo starters as well with like Engraver and Tract and Sanct, which don't bridge into the Live-Twin portion, but are certainly strong on their own. Just doing full Fiendsmith combo is really, really nice. And yeah, that's the main deck. So give me a second and we'll move on to the extra deck. Alrighty, so onto the extra deck. We're going to start once again with the Evil Twins. When the Live Twins go into the extra deck, they become Evil Twins. That's kind of their gimmick. They are streamers by day and thieves by night is the whole lore gimmick behind them. So we'll start with our custom card that Konami released for us, the one copy of our Link 1 Evil Twin Kiss Kill deal. It is a Link 1 that requires any one Kiss Kill monster, so you can turn any of your main deck Kiss Kills into this for free. It has 2 really important facets about it. The first is that you can activate its effect as an ignition to send a Leela from your deck to the grave as cost. Meaning that no matter what they do to try and hand trap this, if they impermanent, if they like try and ash the effect, you still get your Leela and grave, which is fantastic. But for the rest of the turn, if your opponent will respond to your Kiss Killer Leela monsters, you get to draw a card. So it's also like pseudo anti-maxi, or I don't even know how to describe this effect, but if your opponent, after this resolves, is dumb enough to try and respond to any of your Killer Leelas, you get a free draw off of it. It'd be insane, because that can get you into more hand traps. Because a lot of this deck's interaction is doing your one-card combo and then backing it up with 3 hand traps, and that should just be enough to win. So deal making it so you draw even more cards is fantastic. The second part about it isn't part of its effect at all. It's just the fact that it is a light Fiend. So that means that any one Kiss Kill monster not only gets you to the full Live-Twin combo, but you can also then link this Light Fiend off into your Fiendsmith Requiem and do your full Fiendsmith combo as well, which is insane. I have no idea why Konami graced us with this insane of a card, but we will take it and play this deck because this is just a custom piece of support. The other links that we play for the Evil Twins are 1 copy of Evil Twin Kiss Kill and 1 copy of Evil Twin Leela. I'll talk about them both at the same time because they do a lot of the same things, but they both have a quick effect that says that you can special summon back the other names. So the Kiss Kill summons the Leela summons the Kiss Kill from the graveyard, as long as you don't control one. You don't have to control no monsters key like the Kiss Kill or Leela normal summon effects, but you do need to not control one with the same name already. So be careful with when you leave like Sweet on board or some of your extenders on board. You'll need to be mindful of when you're so that way you can take advantage of the summon backs. In addition, they have effects on summon when they're summoned while you control the opposite name. So if you summon Kiss Kill while you control a Leela, you get to draw a card. And if you summon Leela while you control a Kiss Kill, you get to target a card on the field and destroy it. So not only during your main course of your combo can you also get an extra draw, But this will also happen on your opponent's turn, thanks to your Link 4 and part of your end board, Evil Twin Trouble Sunny, which is a Link 4 that takes any two monsters, including an Evil Twin. I guess I should note these require any two monsters, including a Kiss Kill, and any two monsters, including so they're super flexible. You can use the extra Fiendsmith bodies to make these, which is really nice. But Trouble Sunny allows you to quick effect trigger itself to summon back a Kiss Kill and a Leela. So on your opponent's turn, whenever you want to, you can get a draw and a pop, which is fantastic. Additionally, this has a nice grave effect that allows you to non-targeting send a card on the field of the graveyard, which is really, really good. Helpful for cracking half boards that your opponent makes through your interactions. But for the most part, you're relying on it as end board interaction to make your skill and as quick effects. And then on to our honorary Evil Twin is a Link 4 Light Fiend, or Dark Fiend, sorry, not Light Fiend. Bawaku, the Lightless Shadow. A Bawaku is a Link 4 that just requires 2+ monsters, including a Fiend. So you can use any of your Kiss Killer Leela links or any of your Fiendsmith links. Go into a Bawaku. I should note that the Evil Twin, Kiss Kill, and Leela effects also lock you into Fiends from the extra deck. But we are only playing Fiends in our extra deck, so that shouldn't really matter too much. But back to a Bawaku. Bawaku does two very important things for you. It has a quick effect during the main phase where you can discard a card and either non-targeting pop a card in the field, which is a nice piece of interruption for your end board, but also allows you to discard that same card and choose the other effect, which is to banish itself till the end phase, kind of like SP, and then summon back any of your light or darks from the graveyard, typically your Trouble Sunnies. That's how you can end on both Trouble Sunny and a Bawaku for free. Additionally, it has a really niche standby phase effect that allows you to basically mulligan your hand. You get to draw cards from your top of your deck equal to the number of different monster types in your graveyard, and then put that money back on the bottom of the deck. So if your opponent can't out the Abawaku, it basically ensures that you get the optimal follow-up, because you'll get to draw like 4 or 5 cards off the top of your deck on the next turn to sculpt your hand. Really, really crazy. Again, really just an honorary part of this archetype because of how well it synergizes with the Fiend Link fodder that we get off of all of the events. Moving on to the Fiendsmith stuff, we play 2 copies of Requiem. We have the extra deck space to get away with it, and there are a number of times where we will want the extra Requiem, either if we've already spent the first one and we can't really get it back into rotation, or if our opponent has Bestial or Kashtira Unicorned away one of our Requiems. We still have the second one. We'll do Fiendsmith combo, which is nice. We play the one Sequence. We play the one Agnum Day. We're on the full Fiendsmith package, so we're playing the extra cards like Agnum Day, which helps push for the OTK. Really, really nice. We're on, of course, the Desiree as one of our main staple end board pieces, alongside our other option in Necroquip into Caesar. So this is kind of your decision tree. There are lines that make Desiree to play around, or there are lines that make Desiree, there are lines that make Caesar. It really depends on if you open the Fiendsmith cards or if you have to go into them via the Live-Twin side. But they're both really, really strong, so you can't really go wrong either way. And then last but not least, we're on the Moon of the Closed Heaven. Some lists are cutting this because you have a native like Light Fiend access with your Evil Twins, but there have been a ton of scenarios where my opponent has hit me with enough hand traps or half broke my board and left me with one monster, and then I've normal summoned a hand trap, made Moon in the Closed Heaven, and then did full Fiendsmith combo to win the game. It feels pseudo-necessary. It just converts any stray bodies into full Fiendsmith combo, and you have the extra deck space, so I don't see why you wouldn't play this. Alrighty, and then last but not least, we have Chaos Angel, a pseudo-honorary Fiendsmith card. Your main Fiendsmith combo can also make Chaos Angel to out problematic board states. It's unaffected by monster effects if you make it with lights, which you will with the Fiendsmith stuff. There are like niche scenarios where you can turn like a Kiss Kill, a Leela, and a Engraver into a Chaos Angel, and then it's light and dark made Chaos Angel, so it's also immune to battle. But for the most part, if you're making this guy, you're in a tough spot and you're kind of just trying to out an awkward board state. Still super impactful, comes up relatively often, so I wouldn't cut it. And then the last card in our extra deck, and the key to playing around Nibiru, is one copy of number 65 Djinn Buster. This is a Xyz that requires 2 level 2 dark monsters. You may remember this from back in Sprite format. Some people were playing this in Sprite. But it is essentially a quick effect monster effect negation by detaching 2 materials. And it also burns your opponent for 500. So this is the card we make early enough in our combo where we're still Nib insular, I'll say. Such that we get to protect our board and still do full combo. And a lot of times your opponent won't see it coming if they don't know what to expect. Because no one during this main combo thinks that once you get 2 dark level 2s on board, you're going to make a monster effect negation. They assume they can just wait till the end of the combo and Nibiru you, because most Live-Twin Kiss-Kill builds are very vulnerable to Nibiru. So having this card in rotation is pivotal, and I'll show you the combo to make this with any Live-Twin and the extender. Yeah, that is the extra deck. Now let me go ahead and shuffle up and set up for the combo tutorial. Alrighty, so this is the combo. It's gonna be any Live-Twin starter, so Kiss-Kill or Leela, or the continuous spell because it can search either of those. Plus the Kiss-Kill Frost, which again, if you open this plus the continuous spell, you can also search for the Frost if you need to. And then I have 3 blanks in my hand because just to show that you don't need anything else, but it's nice to have the extra discards in hand to show what the. But yeah, treat these Perulias as just dead cards essentially because they are. We're going first and can't really do it. So to start our combo, we're going to go ahead and normal summon our Live-Twin Kiss-Kill. And then we'll activate our Live-Twin Kiss-Kill effect on summon because we control no other monsters. We get to special summon a Leela monster. And for this purpose, we're just going to choose the default Live-Twin. We'll then take our regular Leela and link it off for our, or sorry, not our Leela, our Kiss-Kill. We'll take our regular Kiss-Kill and link it off for our Live-Twin Kiss-Kill deal. Then we'll activate our Kiss-Kill deal effect. We'll go ahead and send from our deck to our graveyard our Leela suite as cost. And now if our opponent responds to any of our Live-Twin, or not Live-Twin, our Leela or Kiss-Kill monster effects, we get to draw a card, which is can draw some more Handtraps. But we'll assume our opponent doesn't do that. And instead we'll link off into our Requiem. That is summon 4, and then we'll go Requiem effect, summon from our deck a Lacrima. So this is summon 5. They could Nibiru here, but we get to go and activate Lacrima effect first and foremost. If they Nibiru'd here, we would still get to send our Engraver, and then they'd give us a token. We'd be able to summon back the Engraver, still make Sequence, and still make Desiree to full combo. And in fact, it'd be a Desiree with an Agnum Day, so it'd be I believe a 5800 attack Desiree with 5 negates. Technically, they all have to be at the same time, but it's still a 5-card negate Desiree. So at this point, while we haven't used Engraver effect, we are Nibiru insular. But we will have to use Engraver at some point, so we want to make sure that we protect our board before we have to do that. So we'll go ahead and link these 2 off using a Leela and another monster to make our Live-Twin Leela. We'll then activate our Live-Twin Leela to summon back a Kiss-Kill monster. Now, notably, this effect does not target. And we have 2 Kiss-Kill monsters in our graveyard, so even if our opponent has a single Bestial or like a DD Crow or something, they can't stop us from summoning back a Leela or Kiss-Kill and full comboing. So for our purposes, we'll summon back the deal. That way we have like a light Fiend on board, but it doesn't matter because we're going to link them off immediately into our Live-Twin Kiss-Kill. Our Live-Twin Kiss-Kill is going to be able to activate to summon back a Leela. Now, normally, you would summon back Leela, the Link 2, but for our purposes in this combo, we're actually going to summon back the regular Leela. Then, because we control the Kiss-Kill, we'll be able to activate Leela Suite Engrave to summon itself back. And then at this point, because we control a Leela, we'll go ahead and special summon Kiss-Kill Frost. Now remember, all the way up until this point, our opponent can't really Nibiru us, because if they do, we still have Engraver effect, shuffle back, and make the Desiree, so the Nibiru is almost pointless. In fact, we're even able to out the Nibiru by using Engraver to send Requiem and the Nibiru off the field, so they don't even get the Nibiru body if they do so. But from this position, we'll take our 2 dark level 2s, and we'll overlay them into Djinn Buster. So now we're truly Nib Insular. If our opponent tries to Nib us, we can just go for Djinn Buster to negate it. So from this position, we're in a really strong spot. We'll then take our Engraver and activate his effect, shuffling back our Kiss Kill Deal into the deck as cost, and then summon him back. And then we'll take Frost and Engraver, and we'll link them off into Sequence. We'll activate Sequence Effect Diffuse, shuffling back our Engraver, our Lacrima, and our Requiem. And that's going to summon our Desiree. We're then going to link our Sequence and our Kiss Kill into our Evil Twin Trouble Sunny. Our Trouble Sunny is going to activate, attributing itself to summon back the 2 Link 2s. Before I forget, we probably should have equipped Sequence before we did that, but it doesn't really matter. Because it tributes itself as cost, it's not like we were vulnerable to like an imp. When these 2 are summoned, we'd have the chance to activate both of their effects, so even if somehow they negated our Engraver to stop them from popping their Nibiru or something, we could still pop it with Leela, but regardless, if you're going first and your opponent has no cards, we'll still activate our Kiss Kill because it was summoned and we have a Leela, we get to draw a card. It could be anything. For our purposes, I'll say it's another brick, like a Fualos, but just know that this could be another hand trap or something that's useful. From this position, we'll go ahead and link these 2 off into our Abawaku. And then we'll activate our Abawaku. We can discard the card we just drew if it's bad, or we can discard one of our bricks if we didn't want to see that in our hand, like our Mulch Army. To banish our Abawaku until the end phase, and summon back our Evil Twin Trouble Sunny. And then, during the end phase, our Abawaku gets to come back to the field. So off of that 2-card combo, which again is any Live-Twin starter and the Frost, we get to this end board, which is a monster effect negation if we didn't have to save ourselves from Nibiru. A quick effect, summon back the 2 links, which give you a draw 1 and a pop 1. The Abawaku, which is a non-targeting pop by discarding a card. And then the Desiree, which is an Omni negate for 2 that can't be targeted by card effects. Pretty crazy. And all that changes with the 1-card combo. If we didn't have the Frost, any 1 Kiss Kill name gets you to this entire board without the Djinn Buster. So instead of having the Djinn Buster, we would be pretty vulnerable to Nibiru. It's a tough spot to be in. Ideally, you want to go for the Djinn Buster line if you are Nibiru, playing around Nibiru. If you've opened any of your like Fiendsmith starters, like Engraver or Tract, you can go for your Caesar before you even start doing your Evil Twin combo to insulate yourself there, which is really nice. But yeah, this is the deck. This is the combo. Absolutely crazy. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 interruptions plus 3 cards in hand. Could be hand traps since they're not extra engine pieces that you wouldn't have put onto the board to maybe also help make like a Caesar or something. Absolutely crazy. The deck plays through interaction like it's nothing. It's insane. But that's the deck profile. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this kind of content and want to see more in the future, let me know down in the comments what sort of decks and strategies you'd like to see me cover next. As always, if there's ways you think that I can improve or things you'd like to have done differently throughout the profile, also let me know down in the comments. I'm always looking for ways to make my better and more informative as well. And while you're down there, if you like this kind of content and want to see more, go ahead and like the video. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel so I can go ahead and know that you want to see more of this content and won't miss it when it does end up. But without further ado, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!